Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
The word mindset, big buzzword nowadays. A lot of people are using it, and I get it. You want to have the right mindset, the right thinking, be in the right place mentally for whatever you want to do. How does that look for somebody who is a leader or a CEO, owner of a company, or just somebody who wants to up their game? We're going to look at that today and do a mindset checkup with you to make sure that you are you're on target for what your goals are. And he is phenomenal in helping us with that as a coach to bring you to elevated states, especially with your mindset. Coachingforrelevance.com is his website, and Randy Swaim is back with us. Hey, Randy, how are you?
Good to be with you, man. That's again.
Yeah. And you know what? You always seem to have the right mindset. Like you're laser focused on helping people and really dissecting what's going on with somebody when they try to lead a team. So with this mindset checkup that we're going to do, and we're going to go through, I'm sure, through the steps and kind of go a little bit deeper here. Where did this begin?
Well, the big thing is when you look at how somebody's true leadership has developed. And I will say this, that, and you're probably aware of this already, Steve, but, decades ago, actually for the last number of decades, people had a tendency to think that their emotions drove how they thought. And that was sort of the mindset that a lot of people had for a long time. But what people would be shocked at, and in fact, one of the ways that you'll do that is some people that are sort of dictatorial managers will try to generate your emotions so they can control you, kind of thing. And and that's unprofessional. But I will say this, that the current research shows just the opposite. It's just opposite to that. It's your brain. And this is true when you look at neuroscience aspects. It's your brain that drives the emotions based on how it's doing it, because the brain is what releases certain chemicals in your body to generate the feeling, the sense that you have, and all of that. It'll if you feel like if your brain senses that it's a fight or flight situation, it'll release norepinephrine to you. If it's something that your focus is on wanting to really be rewarded out of here, when you feel that way, it'll release some dopamine. If you want to have a real synergy with a few people, it'll release serotonin. And so, the aspect of what people have believed for decades is not true. And the current research shows that it's just the opposite. It's your brain and what it does and how it thinks and how it programs and all that generates all of that others stuff. So it's just the opposite of what most people have thought about. And that's a key thing that we were talking with a group of folks this morning. And it's, the thing, and it's a very simple concept that I was talking, that we were chatting about very briefly. But in today's world, it is amazing how many people have been taught one thing in training, and well, that's the way it's always got to be. No, it isn't. The world's different. The people that are involved with you are different. In fact, I was on one of our good ION programs just about a week or so ago, and it was interesting because at the end, a lot of people were sort of talking about the academic versus all of this. And one of the things that I told them is I said, the academic knowledge that you have is critical, because you got to understand what's going on with your brain, with all that you're doing and all that kind of stuff. But the problem with it is how you apply that truth is artistic, because every single person you deal with, if you're a coach, every person you coach, if you're a leader, everybody you lead is a little bit different. And to make that truly, and this is what I brought up to them, I said, to make that truly successful, how you apply the truth in given situations is not purely academic. There's all of that aspect to it. And it really is a key part that many people today do not fully understand. And I will say this, that after I shared that, a number of the people on the roundtable event there, were sort of complimentary. They said, so aligned, so appreciate what Randy just said. And yeah, because this, here, that, there, that kind of stuff. And it's amazing how many times you see supposedly professional people just cast blame when it didn't work out the way they wanted it to, because it didn't fit their rote academic stuff. And the bottom line on this is kind of what we're talking about here, is the idea that, in your brain, in the way that you are developing your brain and using your brain and making it aware, do you have a fixed mindset where it's like, well, this is what it said, back in school, that's what they said. Well, guess what? The factors are different. The people are different and all of that kind of stuff. Or do you truly have a growth mindset where you can be aware of the factors coming in? You can process well and see the right solution and result for what you're involved in right now. And that's a critical thing to understand, this difference between just a simple fixed mindset, where it's sitting here and you go, well, you know what, it should have been this way. You'd be surprised at how many people I've heard say that exact thing. It should have been this way. Well, guess what? It wasn't.
Yeah.
And so, to what extent as a leader are you sensing a real growth mindset, or are you in the process of just going back to your rote things and saying, hey, I made the right call. It failed, but I made the right call. Not necessarily. And so those factors are a little bit different. And a lot of people, it's amazing how many people kind of forget that kind of stuff.
What you said in the beginning, so true. I think for most of us, that it's emotions that drive everything.
But the key is, a lot of people say that's what historically people have said, that's what drives your brain. No, it isn't.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And even
it's your brain that's creating that.
So you're saying creating the emotion, or
well, it's your thinking, because a lot of people say, and people have said this for decades, that your emotions drive your thinking.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. That's what we all think.
And that is totally incorrect. In fact, modern research has showed just the opposite, that it's your brain that drives the emotions, and it's the mindset and everything. And that's what, so that is one thing that people have believed for decades and have been taught. But modern research is showing that is not true. It's just the opposite. And that's very aligned with neuroscience.
It's very surprising, because even in the advertising world, things are done to play on your emotion. For example,
they are.
Fear, vanity, sex, money, all of the 7 main principles to touch your emotion, to make you act on that in whatever way that they're trying to get you to act on.
Yeah. And the real way, because that is the old school sales aspect of it, which is not really professional anymore. What it is, it's a control mentality. But you look at people that really now that are great salespeople, they connect with the prospect. They find out what the prospect is really looking for.
Yes.
and they find out a little bit. In fact, I'll just give you one really quick story on this, and I don't remember if I've ever shared it on a show with you before. I may have shared it like a year and a half ago, kind of thing. But there was a company that in Fort Worth that was a software specialist group that played with created with TVs and all of this stuff and did a lot of stuff online. Now, this was about 20 years ago. So, I mean, it's before it really became obvious kind of thing. And what I did was one of the guys that was the salespeople, in fact, he was the chief salesperson for this company. He knew me well. And he asked if I would be willing to come over and just meet with them. I said, I'll tell you what, I know you'll talk about me, so I'll come over. I won't charge you anything. And I said, if there's something that we got to do, yeah, I'll charge you. But I said, I'll come over and and what we did is we met in their office, their conference room in Fort Worth. And the people that were in it was himself, one other salesperson, the IT person, the head of the IT stuff for the company, and the president of the company, who traveled down from Amarillo for this meeting. And we were all in there. And what was amazing is we got to talking a little bit, and they were trying to talk about their sales aspects to it. And so I looked at him. I said, well, I'll tell you what. And I pointed it to him like this. I said, show me how you would normally do it, because this is a good picture of the difference between these two. And he was going kind of like an old school sales and stuff. And you could tell he was trying to convince, because I told him, I pointed to the IT guy and I said, there's your prospect. Show me how you do it. And you could tell his whole mindset was in, kind of trying to convince this guy to just do it. And he looked at me, he said, so that's kind of how we do it. He said, what do you think? And I said, well, to be honest, I do it quite differently. And he looked at me like this, and he said, oh, really? I said, yeah, looked at it quite differently. He said, well, how would you do it? I said, I would just ask 2 questions. And he went, really? I said, yeah. He said, what 2 questions? And I looked over at the IT guy, and I looked at him like this. I even sort of leaned forward across the table like this. And I said, how is your current system holding you back? Tell me how your current system is keeping you from the goals that you're looking for. It's holding you back. And I looked at the guy, and I looked at the sales guy. I said, how do you think most of your prospects would answer that question? And he looked at me and said, well, they'd probably say, I don't know. I said, that is exactly what they would say, because they probably don't know, which would lead me to my second question. He said, oh, really? What's that? And I looked at the IT guy. I said, would you like to get together and just have some conversations about that, so you can kind of uncover how this is holding you back or not? And I looked at it, and the president of the company and the sales guy were both like this, looking at me and each other. And it was like, wow. And I said, that's what you got to be thinking about. So what it is, it's getting their thoughts going, not controlling them, not trying to convince them to buy your stuff, but finding out how what you bring together is really what they need.
What you did was make the IT guy think about his pain point.
There you go. There you go. And that's a coaching a prospect. But guess what? When he gets clarity on the pain point, and he's going to see the connection between what you bring and what he needs, and he's going to say, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this.
Because now, not emotion, but isn't it logic came into play, meaning thinking?
The logical processing to get a clear picture on where they're wanting to go and what is it that's holding you back. And that is the key part of it that so many people don't get. And it was kind of interesting because, when we closed it, and the president and he both were very appreciative that I came over, and we, when we left, he actually sent me a text, and he went, what were those two questions again? And
Mhm.
I texted him right back to him the same questions, and I said, but he gained an insight in that it's not just that aspect about whether it's the brain that does the emotions or vice versa. The truth
Yeah.
of that is very different than what most people try to do today, and it's and that's what people don't understand about true leadership and about neuroscience aspects of kind of why that's important. But the true leader is working and connecting with your people so that, boy, they see the value of this. And you know what? I want to make this happen. Let's do this.
And they're
And
vested, they're on
yeah,
board. And even what you did there, you could take that one little exercise, that mindset, and move it, shift it over to somebody that, uh, let's say you're a leader and now you have a team member, and
yep.
to reframe it and say, so how could things be a little easier in terms of productivity in your department? Or couldn't they be? Or however you want to phrase it. You're it's almost
Or,
as you're assuming it.
or what's your big stress in what you're doing right now? Oh, well, the team just doesn't work together. Okay, why not? How does that show up and what's going on there? And now if somebody just goes crazy and just starts to blame everybody else on the team except himself. Okay, that's an arrogant thing that is not professional. But a lot of times if you get people really involved in that and considering it, all of a sudden some real clarity in solutions comes up. And
I
but
have a
it's
I
this
have a
but it's
question.
this but it's this aspect that is the key difference. Go ahead.
In what you were doing before, we took a sales approach to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a team leader,
Mm-hmm.
owner of the company, and you're dealing with your team, are you in many ways selling something? By that, I mean selling the positivity of the company, selling, you want them to buy into it, is where I'm going with that.
Mm-hmm.
Your team, you want
Mm-hmm.
to, and I don't mean this in a bad way, like
Yeah.
brainwashing,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Uh, there is, but the question that I would follow up with that people need to think about is, okay, and what's the artistic correct way to do that?
Oh
And
yeah.
the way that you do that is not from threatening people or making them feel threatened because you're telling them what to do, but it is, okay, so this is what you want. You know what? That's what we want too. Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. So how can you help bring that? Oh,
Mm.
yeah, kind of thing. And all of a sudden, people start coming together in synergy, and now magic happens. But you don't get that from the old-fashioned way that so many people think, in terms of today, because it's not about you just pointing fingers and telling people what to do. And you better do this because we need this. No, it's deeper than that. But you know what? If you do it right as a true leader, understanding this current truth that is different and more positive than the old school dysfunctional belief that people had, amazing things can happen. And
Mm.
that's what you want in your team, in your company, with your family, when you're raising your kids, kind of thing. Being able to bring that together like that is is
Mm.
just a key part of it, that because people go back to something they thought was true 25, 35 years ago, it wasn't true then. Current research has shown that it's the other way around from what most people have when you hear people that are going for the emotions right up front, 9 times out of 10 they're just playing control freak games.
Well, it seems reasonable if somebody is thinking that they're working on your emotion, they're looking to press your button
Yep.
emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not
And
the way it works.
that's right. And in fact, what is your reputation if that's the way your clients are starting to perceive you? Because remember, I think I shared last week where when you talk about leading your team, the idea it's connecting with them in such a way that they feel aligned.
Mm. Hmm.
It's not about controlling them and wrapping a chain around their neck and pulling it this way. It's about You making them feel that, you know what, I want to be a part of this. I'm going. And the same thing here with your clients in sales like that. But these are aspects about the brain and the neuroscience applications of it and the awareness of it, and what some of the current research has shown that that people need to rethink and change how they do what they do, particularly when you're talking about sales or leading your team or whatever, because there's a lot of factors in there that most people in today's world don't fully understand.
Yeah. I opened my eyes because I think everything's emotionally driven. Is there a piece of emotion that comes into play in all of this?
In terms of what do you say? What do you? What's the
What,
picture of what you're asking?
in leading your team, or even, I don't want to say selling somebody
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
does emotion come into play at some point?
Yeah, and the question that I would ask if somebody was asking that question and I was coaching them, you know what my next question would be?
Steve, go Google it. No, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no, I wouldn't do that. But I'd say, hey, Steve, what should drive the emotion?
You're mine.
What would make your mind want that to happen and make your body feel that emotion? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
It's the aspect of it's not generating the emotion so that you're off scale and I can just tell you what to do, but it's getting you aligned in such a way when the emotions are well worth it when they come into it willingly on their own, and some magical results happen. And you look at the team and you go, and there's one thing about a leader, very often you look at your team and give them a thumbs up.
Mm.
Yeah, you're the leader, but they should get the credit sometimes.
Billion%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's just the aspect of that. There's several questions that I would follow on with that if somebody was kind of raising those questions to me, because all that is applicable when you're talking about this aspect. Because it really, that the emotions can happen. That can be normal, but it comes from what the brain gives. And you know what? If they go into a certain mission, if you will, and their brain feels like I can't contribute, I don't even know what, I'm missing the boat here, they're not going to have a positive emotion. But if they
Mm.
go in and they see, you know what? Oh, yeah, he reminded me of one thing, and not the leader, but a team member. And they feel oneness in the team, and the team starts progressing, and the whole team goes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That can be good. But and as a true leader, that's the kind of thing that you want. It's not about you. It's not about you just getting a pat on the back. It's about, the team being truly magically successful. And
Yeah.
that's when you're doing your job.
So leave the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
Use the logic, and go to the website so you can start the conversation with Randy and learn all about this and how to lead your team effectively. We find you at coachingforrelevance.com, right?
That's right. Coachingforrelevance.com. And as you know, I don't do sales pitches, so I just kind of meet people and build friendships. If somebody has a need, yeah, we'll come up with something. But yeah, they don't feel like I'm going to be selling them from day one. But if they have a need, yeah, we'll talk about it. But building relationships, that's what life is about.
It really, truly is. And I truly believe that more of us need to realize that it's, when you're working with somebody, whether it's a client, whether it's a team member, it's not just another person, it's a relationship. You're together for a reason. Whatever that reason puts you together, it could be anything, could be fate, whatever.
Yeah.
It's happening, I believe, for a reason. Why you found that client, or why that team member or that person is on your team.
Mm-hmm.
So cultivate that relationship, appreciate that relationship, be grateful for that relationship, and there it grows from there. Thank you so much for being with us today, Randy.
Well, my pleasure as always, Steve. We'll look forward to doing it again.
Good.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.